Welcome to the Parenting and Non-Religious Spirituality Book Club Summary. I'm Efrat Shakef. I'm a shamanic energy healing practitioner working mainly with children, families, and parents, and I'm the author of The Promise We Made, 3 Universal Soul Promises We Made to Our Children. And this is my dear friend, Anne Beer, a weaver of energetic and shamanic work with peace worker. She's an international and national peace worker, and we host this book club together and are having a lot of fun.
Yes.
Our book in our last meeting was Evolved Nests.
Yes, it's an amazing book, and I'm happy that we're having it here. That's how to start first. I am showing it. This is how it looks. And the whole title is The Evolved Nest, Nature's Way of Raising Children and Creating Connected Communities. And this subtitle is really, it's already talking so much and saying so much about the books. But first, before we go into it, I say something about the authors. It's 2 women, Dr. Darcia and Narvaez, and I think she also has a PhD, Dr. G.A. Bradshaw. They're both psychologists, and we just looked it up again. They come from neuroscience, psychology, and evolutionary biology, so they are deeply rooted in science and what I would call in applied science, in lived through, experienced, and spiritually drenched science in a way. So the evolved net, and what they have done is they observed nature through a certain lens, and they looked at animals' behavior very specifically. They have chosen, I don't know how many animals have they chosen. Let me check again. 7, 8. To make us understand how an evolved nest can be created or is created. And so what they did is they take the reader and took us through the developments of babies and young children and how these souls are landing in our world and what we can learn from the animal world to create an evolved nest for them through building connection, building community, through breastfeeding, to physical contact. And what they do is that they're not only taking these very maybe basic phenomena, seems so basic, but really exploring on it. What is the meaning, for example, of breastfeeding for the development of a child and for the evolution of an evolved nest? Add on it, Efrat.
I will go to a quote I wrote for myself. I had the Kindle version. Evolved nests are developmental systems tailored to nurture psychological, social, and physical needs in species unique manner. They talk about the evolved nest as a container for growth. Mm-hmm. And what struck me was that understanding. It's like we know it, but in our discussion and our reading, it was like, oh, yes, but an embodiment of a deeper understanding that as each species develops along centuries with the various conditions, the environmental conditions around it, it creates an ultimately best, we'll put it in quotes, but best container for nurturing the offsprings. Mm-hmm. Some species need more social connections, like the elephants. Some needs guidance on how to adjust to various climates. Some, it's like, and they give those examples based on research and based on nurturing offsprings that needed the human involvement. It's such a rich, beautiful book. I think one of the most enjoyable books I've read lately. And the same, and they apply to humans. So the same is true for us humans. Along centuries, along thousands of years, along our evolvement as a human species, we have developed, like just like all of our family members, four-legged, two-legged, flying ones, crawling ones, we have developed a best, an evolved nest. What would be the best for a human offspring in terms of the connection, in terms of the physical care, in terms of physical touch, in terms of communication with others, in terms of that, the best nurturing environment.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, in our modern world, we, even with the best intentions, most of us provide only a partial of what that knowledge applies for us. And somehow, while reading all the examples and the stories, and they weave in so many theories, it's such a beautiful written book. That acknowledgement of what we need awakens.
Mm-hmm.
So it focuses on babies and young children, and at the end of the book, they relate to that piece of, it's also us, each one of us as a child, as an individual. What is that nurturing environment that we need
Mm-hmm.
for us to thrive, to be,
Mm-hmm.
to embody our human journey? So it's amazing. It's amazing to learn from our fellow children of Earth. It's amazing to see how evolved and advanced all those nests are. It's like we like to think of ourselves as human and pat ourselves on the shoulder, but you know, we're only humans. We're not as evolved often as others, and we're definitely not as good in listening to our inner knowing and our wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to have that, the evolved nest for the animal world, which they get their wisdom from, is there to allow babies, in whatever form they come, to land, to be fully nourished, to be introduced to the species they are in, to learn their values, their way of functioning, and that it's all done to make them thrive and to keep the community healthy. And to me, that was a very important thing to remember. Especially at these times where there are not that many large functioning communities, that we can create space for our babies that are providing this kind of nest, and that we can remember just by following our deep inner knowing what is needed. And for me, that they opened up the gate to learn from the animal world. We could learn from plants, but in this case, how to build a really evolved nest that sustains a community, a species, is something we need to learn at the moment. It's a highly needed knowledge. And I really love the way they opened up this way learning path. And for me as a mother, I was encouraged to observe. How do they do it?
Yeah.
Is there something I can integrate? Is there something I forgot that really aligns with myself? It's and sometimes I feel, oh, it's interesting, but no, that's not mine. But this is mine, yes, and I really want to do it. And this is what I loved about it so much.
And it awakens it awakens deep wisdom and knowing that we all have, mothers and fathers, all parents, all grandparents,
Yeah.
all we all have, but we put aside. There is they quoted somebody else, Lidoff, in the book and say it is possible to start where we are and still find a way back.
Mhm.
And I find this quote, and I'm relating to it because it's a lot of us look at our lives, at our modern lives, and say, but we're not there. And that's not how life looks. And
Mm.
life has different demands today. But within that framework of understanding where we are, it is also an invitation to start where we are
Mhm.
and start where we are if we're just pregnant or having a baby,
Mhm.
and starting where we are as parents to teens like you and I, and
Mhm.
and questioning also, um, what can we learn, can we embrace, what can we expand. They say in the book how a child is treated is predictive of how they will treat the world.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of us are observing what's happening in the world and in our own countries, and are asking, how can we raise truly
Mhm.
good and conscious co-creators,
Mhm.
humans that co-create for the good and the best of all.
Yeah.
And this book is so profoundly important in its perspective and its offering to us.
Mhm.
It starts with the conditions we create around us and how we nurture and how we see and how we cultivate the peace within,
Yeah.
so that we can then know what it is
Mhm.
and bring it forward to our families, to our small communities, to our growing communities, to our
Mhm.
country, and beyond that. And I think that's a dream the two of us definitely share, and a lot of those of people in our circles share that same dream. Um, but it doesn't start as an idea. It starts as
Uh,
an embodiment of who we are. And the evolved nest is an embodiment of who we are as a human
mhm.
species, as a human nature. And we can start where we are.
Yeah. And it's a healing path, as you also say that. It's even if we didn't grow up in an evolved nest, by understanding what is needed and what would have been needed, we can create it now. This is what I like for myself,
Yes, me
or
too.
also for my children. So to understand in order to, and it's a lot of the ability to really relax into a state of being held, that we can create it however old we are, that we can give it to our children, and the effect is enormous. But it's
Yeah,
by recognizing also to be not like, oh, I didn't do it and it's so bad. No, no, no. But to see, oh, wow, there's more to give, there's more to explore. And this is the wonderful invitation the book gives for me. And this is how it can, to me, it was really healing to read all that. And also to work with the images, because sometimes if I cannot imagine things in my human family, for example, I remember the elephants and I remember them doing it, like protecting and building circles, and even knowing that they are doing it does something to me. Somebody on earth is doing it, even if I can't at the moment, or I don't have I don't have the inner strength or whatever. I know it's there. And this is what I was really grateful for.
I find it important that we be clear to with our listeners. Um, there are no how-tos on how
Mm-hmm.
to embody this ancient, important, and needed uh, collective, in the terms of all of us as children, wisdom. It's about what we each take, and in terms of, it's more applied to maybe the first steps of having a
Mm-hmm.
child, of raising a human child, but then the implications for all of us who are already a few steps forward in our family creation, in the nest we create in our homes. Um, it's about how we each apply it, based on our children's need, based on who we are, based on what we can offer, based on is what what is aligned for our family and where we
Mhm.
are at that stage, and the whole collective around us. But it's just as important. This is a piece I wish they would have elaborated on. I wanted another chapter or two
Mhm.
relating to the animals they
Mhm.
explored, but in that more evolved phase. So on elephants, I know a lot, so I could apply it. But on some of the other animals they introduced, I'm not familiar with as much information about the community functions. The community of
Yes.
that species functions as a community in a continuous nourishment
Mhm.
of their members, and I think that would have really applied um, to families in our stages. But maybe there's a book in writing. I don't know. I'm putting it
Yeah,
out there.
that would be
Let's
wonderful.
have a book in writing.
Yes, please, let's call it in. That would be wonderful.
Yes, because it's so important. So I think both of us really recommend you explore this book. It is nourishing in its energy and in its love for the human species, and in the vision it holds for us that it is possible and we can embrace a different way of conduct and walking and expression of our humanness. You can find all of Anne's information and my information down in the description below. We welcome you to join our discussions in our book club. It's free to join. And we'll see you in our next book summary.
Yes.